Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to the homestead. I've just finished commissioning my greenhouse controller, smart controller. This is the next video in a series of videos we're making about designing and building of this project. So in this video, I'll take you through me actually putting all the components in and building them together, and then coming out here and installing this into the greenhouse and solving a few problems. Lots of new sensors on this one compared to my old one. Things like flow sensors, additional air sensors, and some future proofing. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, stick around, watch the rest of the video, and we'll see what happens. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then stick around, watch the rest of the video. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, then stick around and watch the rest of the video. Right, in theory, that was a bit fiddly. Well, not in theory, it was a bit fiddly, but in theory, if I put the test processor into here and plug it in, those screens should work. Ooh. Don't know what's happening there. Could be a fault with the screen, which is a bit of a pain if I need to change that. But anyway, if I need to change it, I need to change it. But at least it works. Right, I don't know what you've just seen on time lapse, but it wasn't the greatest success. And then I stopped the filming and then carried on through the night, as it were, because I've got a lot on at the moment with the garden and everything, but I need to get this done. So I will try and do a little bit here and there, and that's what I'm doing tonight. Yes, it's another night. So what I ended up doing actually was soldering stuff rather than using these crimp tags, because it was getting really fiddly, and there's not a lot of real estate, not a lot of room in here, and these take up room, as you can see. And also I'm not planning to reuse this, so that could soldering doesn't matter. And also on the previous box, version 1, I had some problems with the dry joints, the contacts. I've left these on because I thought it might be handy with the main input to still have the ability to unplug that. But yeah, I'm reusing wires from project 1 to minimize wastage. And if they've got a tag, if they've got one of these crimps on, I leave it on. If they haven't, I just solder it and screw it into the terminal block here, into this buzz bar for 12 volts, negative on this side, positive on this side. And that seems to have worked okay actually with soldering. Next, I need to take the other side, just do this last one here. This fuse isn't used yet, but it might be in the future, so just do that last one, and then take the positives around, well, 4 of them around to the relays here, and then we need to do the crossover, because if you remember from project 1, then the actuators, or maybe I've mentioned in a previous video, the actuators are not, they need switching of polarity to work. So they just have 2 wires, and depending on which way you switch the polarity, depends whether they open the windows or close the windows. So you need to do a switching, which is what these are for, polarity switching. So I'll just do positive to positive, negative to negative, and then these will be the outputs to the windows, and these are the relay control inputs from the 5-volt relays over here. Okay, back on the front cover. Second buzz bar here, distribution panel. Need to wire up all the 12 volts for the override switches and the USB and the power for this, and some kind of cable for the LCD screen which needs to come across. Of course, all these need to jump across into the main box as well, but we might do that later when I've worked out the best way to do that. Okay, so next what I want to do is get the ESP32, the main controller board in here, which, you know, the prototype has all the sensors attached at the moment. But these will be wired. You know, we've got the relays to wire in, relay controls wires, and then all the sensor inputs as well need to go into this, all the 5-volt kind of stuff really. So what my plan is I've 3D printed this, like, I'm calling it a table, but I'm not sure, a stand I suppose is the right word, which will fit there nicely. And that allows us to use more of the vertical space in the box better. And then what we can do is kind of that can then sit there and utilize some, like I say, some of this vertical space. I need to find a way to fix this. Will be glued down, but it might be nice to have a way that this. I mean, there's no reason why it needs to come off, I suppose, other than maybe to get at some of these wires. I'm not sure. Maybe we can just glue it. Okay, so skip forward a few days. I've been working hard on it to get it done. Like I say, the last 10% of any project seems to take 90% of the time. So I've put the lid and the box together now, just with a couple of screws. What I quite like about this particular control box is that the screws act as a hinge as well, which is really great. That was already done anyway. So all I've been doing really is connecting up the few. So there's the switches for the Wi-Fi skip and reset, and then really these connecting the wires together. So for the LCD panel there, this, and the override switches. So these are the higher current ones which go direct to the fans, or pump in this case. These are for the relays which will go there. They're only lower milliamps because they're only controlling the relays. They're not actually controlling the main voltage, not bypassing the voltage, as it were. Yeah, I think pretty much. So for this, I'm running low on this cable, so I've switched, which is a better idea anyway, this silicone cable, which is thicker but much more flexible, makes more sense as a hinge wire. for those. That's okay. All those at the back are now wired in. That's all the sockets for the inputs and outputs. I don't think anything else really is new on here, so all that's left to do is just that bit, and then we can get it installed, I think. Okay, it's main installation day, I guess, or I'll get as much done as I possibly can. Just take you through a few things. So the box previously was up there, where you can see where the wires are, but I think I'm going to move it here. From memory, this is where it was originally meant to go, but I think I did it there because the Wi-Fi was coming from the house and I needed the best aerial. Anyway, the idea was I was going to put an aerial through there and then it go back to the... Anyway, if you've seen previous videos, you now will know that the Wi-Fi, I've got an extender with a LAN cable, PoE LAN, coming out to an extender right above my head here outside. So we could have it anywhere now. So I'm going to put it on there as originally intended, which will require a little bit of fiddling here. I've got my potting desk here with everything on, but there's a bunch of gardening stuff as well. I think before I start anything, I need to have a bit of a tidy up in here because I've got other stuff here. I need to be able to move that, to be able to move the potting bench, and then so on and so on. And then we can get going on the installation. I'm going to try and get kind of mission critical stuff today. So windows, what I've been doing, I've got a window open at the moment. As you can probably see, I've been taking myself the wires because the solar's wired up and just like forcing the window open by touching the cables from the original installation and getting them to open and close manually myself. We've had some, if you're just tuning in here, we're in North Latvia and we've had a really cold spring actually, and it's now May, was it 19th, something like that, I can't remember now. We're just about to have some sunny weather, having had sort of, it's really cold at night still, we had loads of days of rain, in typical gardener moaning, but it's not really been that much of a necessity for automation in here because there's been nothing really to automate. There's been the occasional day of sun which made it hot in here, but from here on in it will need it, and I don't want the hassle of having to come out and do it myself, so we'll switch to the automation from hopefully today onwards. Okay, the moment of truth. Now I know the 5-volt circuits work because they're all tested indoors. I know that there's no short on the 12-volt in because I tested that. So all I'm really testing, I guess, is the 5-volt supplies, and then we can play around with the 12 volts. The interesting thing will be what will happen with the windows, because it was impossible to know which way to wire them up because of the last way I did it with the relay changing the polarity. Well, 2 relays changing the polarities. It was easier to do in the spectrum of wiring. It was easier to know. This is a more efficient system, but it's the wiring. I won't know what's what, but I can easily swap it. Okay. So I guess we just turn it on. Oh, sorry, no, I need to turn it on down here. So now we've got power coming up to here. Fan's working, which is nice. The thermometer's working. I don't know if you can see it from there. It looks like the windows are wired correctly because now the second one's open. Although it's saying window is closed. Temperature 41, which is not good. But it is right that it should open the windows if the temperature's 41. I just need to put a grill up there. Now, in theory, okay. Oh, I just noticed that these aren't working, so the power supply for the screen is not working for some reason. Okay, with the displays, schoolboy error. I'd left the code connecting to the internal Wi-Fi network rather than the external one, so it wouldn't connect and was caught in a loop. And also I had left the demo data connected, so when it did connect, and the demo data happens to be 35, which is why I got excited, but actually that was only in demo. So we'll reconnect it and then we'll see what happens. It goes through the loop of connecting to the Wi-Fi, and then hopefully it will come up with something. I'll just move the camera. Oh, okay. So that's the new demos now, 0. That doesn't look very tidy, but then if we have 0 humidity, we're in more trouble than just my display. So 27, that looks better. Humidity's still not right. Something wrong there. We'll fix that, no problem. Let's just get a temperature reading just to make sure it's right. I mean, like, if it's not right, I don't know where it's getting this from, but 26.9, so it's rounding it, of course. Yeah, that's okay, that's fine. That's that sorted. Now, with regard to the relays, reading some documentation online, I think I've got them wired up wrong. So lots of people make the mistake with the normally closed and the common. I've just had a quick look. I'm 99% sure that's what's happening. That's going to be a bugger to change, because this is a bit like a modern car trying to change a light bulb. You need to be a contortionist. So I'll probably need to take the box off the wall, change it with a pair of tweezers, and then put it back on. And I'll do that tonight, maybe. Okay, we'll try it again. I managed to get it done tonight. It was a bit fiddly, but I like these screw fittings. They're really handy. Really missed it last time, not been able to plug and unplug these to take the box off the wall. Temperature is 19.7. So this needs to update. I don't know why it's 27. We know it works because it worked last time when we just checked it. The main point is difficult to check the relays now because the temperature has come below the threshold for windows being open. But what we can do is override it with this. Yeah, that works. And the second window, which only opens and doesn't close. That's interesting. Ah, yeah, that's corrected itself now. And the humidity will when it next cycles on the, there we go, MQTT. Can you see that? Right, I'm going to swap out the switch to start with. And the only thing left to do, I'm just going to check the contacts on here. I've got them both connected to positive. Silly me, silly me. I'm tired, I suppose. It was earlier. It was certainly hot earlier. It needs to be on this side. I need to plug the fan back in. I need to make sure it goes. Ah. It's working, but it's blowing air in rather than exhausting it. So I just need to turn the polarity round up there, and that will sort that. In principle, it works. Okay, today I need to, as I've already said last night, get the soil sensor installed and the pump power. I then need to also install the second fan. That's remember yesterday we had the problem with the exhaust fan. We need to get the internal fan, import fan, intake fan even. We won't install that today, but we'll get the wiring done. And the air temperature, intake air sensor. We've got a door sensor and the second temperature sensor, which will be for the ground, for the soil, or around that area. That will do two things. It will give us an indication of, it's more about lower temperatures, so what's going on in the soil. Has there been a frost event during the springtime? This will be more useful in the springtime, but also it can be used to average out temperatures as well. We've got the power for the second, power cable for the second fan, and then the data cable for the temperature sensor, which should still be more than 10 meters left, 8 meters, sorry, to get down and back. Well, just down. That's what we're doing today. I won't do it as much detail as yesterday. I'll probably do it mostly on time lapse and update as I go along. Also, I want to do something with this mess. This is the old cabling from last year. To rip it all out would be a right hassle. so it makes sense to use it even though it looks pretty ugly. Obviously if I was installing these, ideal world I'd be starting again with the cables and make it a lot neater like I have done inside, but we'll work something out at the end. Right, you've just seen me wire up the pump, and the pump's come on obviously because nothing's happening in here in terms of irrigation. But if I take this watering can and pour it onto the soil sensor, which is down there, hopefully the pump will stop eventually once the message gets up. Wait for the soil to come around. Soil 100%, so the moisture has gone up to 100%. It was 60 or something before, I should have shown you that, but anyway, pump stop, that's the main thing. Okay, the last thing to install, which is different and new to me, is the flow sensor, which will be installed somewhere here on this pipe. There's the main, comes through the filter and it's sucked into the pump, and then this side becomes pressurized, whereas this side is drawn. So we want it on this side really, and I think it will go here. Should go here. You know, this. I think this should be able to go flat, and then I'll be installing these brass, two of these. If I need more hose pipe, then I've got more, so it's no problem. The sensor itself is already hooked up. It has an arrow on the back. I don't know if you can see that. It tells you which way the water needs to flow. If I blow down it, then the detector should pick it up and show it on. I'll put the screen grab of the Home Assistant display app, and you can see that it's picking up that waters would be flowing. Either, I know it's my breath, but it would be water, and it's picking up that reading of how many litres per minute. So I'll put the camera on a stand, and then you can see me install that, and then that's it. That's the last thing installed really. I hope Yeah. Okay. That probably needs some BTV. That's better. I turned the water back on and this started leaking, so I don't know whether there's what the problem is with that. I think there's a special tool for getting these off, which I don't have, so I've got my special tool, which might not be big enough. Oh, look at that, completely broken. I think I do have one of these somewhere. Okay, I found it. Of course, I had to go and look for something else before I found this. Okay, that's all done now. Let's turn the pump on. That one? No. I think it's clear from that that I probably need some labels, don't I, on the panel. I've got this little printer which works from Bluetooth from the phone, so I can't print and video at the same time. But I'll print off labels and then you'll probably see me stick them on. So there we are, all commissioned, installed and working. What's next, you might ask? Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I've not done a video on code. It's not particularly my forte, but I'll make the code available on GitHub if you want to pull it apart and criticize it. Maybe some of you are far better coding engineers than I am. I'm kind of more of a design person, I suppose, really. But it's been a really interesting, fun exercise to do. And I hope with this box, there's a lot more scope for future proofing in it and code upgrading. I've already got lots of ideas, actually, having just finished this, for things that I could do. I welcome any feedback on the code, really. If you do want a code video, it's the sort of thing I might stick up on Patreon, if I do a Patreon, because it requires a lot of my time, really, to do that, and not everyone's interested, really. But the code is freely available for you to download and pull apart and do with what you want. I think if you're interested, I might do a whole commissioning video about how it actually works. Not how it works, but what it actually does. Take you through the box. Actually, I've not actually through this state. You know, I've talked about all these bits during the video, but I've not actually given you a demo of what it does. A lot of it's based upon the previous one, but there are obviously some improvements as you've seen and as I've spoken about in this video. Anyway, let me know what you'd like to see next, what you'd like me to do, and I'm happy to look at that. I've not talked about actually Home Assistant either, which is what it's based on. So maybe in this video I've put a bit about Home Assistant in because I'm shooting this before the end, so we'll see. But yeah, I could do a video about looking again. I'm not a Home Assistant expert. There's plenty of people out there who do it better than I do, but I can show you how I'm using it, how it's much better for me than Node Red was on the previous version. Make some comparisons maybe. Anyway, let me know in the comments. Happy to do that. Hope you enjoyed the video. Appreciate you commenting, sharing, liking, and all those kind of things to help me reach a better audience. And I will look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye for now.